I think so.
Oh,
I'm never 100% sure.
Right to let us know.
yeah. You'll push the right button. There we are. Good evening and welcome to the City Council Finance Committee meeting of Thursday, December 21st, 2023. We'll move to the second item first. We'll change the order of it. Discussion regarding the monthly revenue and expenditure reports. Mr. Francisco.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of things I was going to highlight, but before I start, I want to recognize our Public Works Director, Mr. O'Leary, who we yesterday celebrated his going away retirement party, and the party will continue immediately after this meeting. But I think in this Finance Committee meeting, I just wanted to recognize that he has been the rare Public Works Director who gives consideration to the costs of the things that they're trying to build. And does, in fact, respect the fact that, I've always said that I believe that engineering schools and civil engineering schools in particular just teach people how to build stuff and cost be damned. If they have a way to get out of the box, they just tell you to get out of the box. But Sean has always given consideration to the cost of things and tried to find ways to stay within the budget or to come up with ways to pay for things. And so I've always respected that and appreciated that. So I just wanted to recognize him on his last Finance Committee meeting.
Yeah, well, good for you, Sean.
In the financial reports that are in your packet, there's a couple of things that I wanted to highlight. You might have heard about just kind of the record stock market returns that we've had over the last few weeks. We invest in the municipal bond market and the treasury bond market and agencies and that sort of thing, but it is kind of unusual for the bond market to move with the stock market. But this has been a very bull market for municipal bonds and the treasury market as well. And that's reflected in the investment returns that you see in these revenue reports throughout. You see that in the general fund, we're 181% above budget for investment returns. And again, investment returns are a small part of the revenue picture for the general fund, but it is a piece. And we're 250% above last year. In the capital fund, we're 594% above last year. And we're 1,117% above budget in the room tax fund for investment returns. So again, yes, I am your investment officer, but I take no credit for what happens in the market. We're just going along with what's going on in the market, and it's been a very good market. And so that's reflected in these investment returns. And I just wanted to kind of highlight that. And just know that some of your predecessors gave me a really hard time when we were on the downside of things.
Oh.
So I just wanted to point out that we're on the upside of things. We're riding along with that right now. Other than that, I would just try to respond to any questions that you have. Councilmember Holman often asks about the inner city comparison that we have for sales tax returns. And you see that for the month of December, we're on the high side of things. We were up 0.8% for the month of December when a lot of our peer cities were down for the month. And so now for the year to date, we're kind of right in the middle. Lawton is way up, but we are not down as much as some others. So we're on the, I'm going to say, the top third of things for our intercity comparisons as we've gone along this fiscal year, and we'll continue to monitor things. So any questions that you have, I'll try to respond to them.
Yeah, just that, good news that
Yeah.
for us. And I noticed that Oklahoma City and Moore and Edmond were all in the -2% and 3% for this past month, and then Moore was close to 3% down for the year. We're down from projections by 0.69%, but again, from historic highs, like we always say last year. So down slightly, but down from historic highs that we've had since 2019 is what I see on the other bar chart. The question, let's see, I did have a question about the expansion of microtransit. 121,100, that's from the transit fund. Is that based off something was requested, or is that?
No, that's what actually been spent. There is some purchases of vehicles in there that are really one-time high-dollar purchases, but that's in fact what we've actually spent.
Okay, because we've asked in CPTC, we've asked Taylor to explore what it would cost to expand the hours per hour and what it would cost to expand the footprint of it as well. So I wasn't sure if that was
That's not reflected
something
in here.
related to that, okay. And then I saw an emergency repair at Westwood for 32,000, but since it's a new facility, just like the library, I think we're all wondering about anything that might be going on with any of our things now, so.
I don't know if we have anyone here from Parks. I do know that they had a leak, for lack of a better term, in the Lazy River that had to be fixed before they opened last season, and that was a very, $50,000 repair. But I don't know of any one-time expenditures that have happened in the last few months, so.
Okay. Hopefully Westwood's still holding up good though. I think 5 years in, 6 years. And then I saw several lines for the SRO funding. Is that based off of our recent approval or?
No, that would not be reflected yet. That will be after they have hired the next Academy of Trainees. I believe that's gonna be February, Marchish, but it has not happened yet.
Okay. And then I saw that under departments, city council salaries and benefits was down 84%. I was wondering what might be the reason for that.
I think that's where the salary for the communication staff moved out of the city council's budget and into its own budget. So I think that's the main thing. That's Tiffany and Bryce, and I think that's it.
Okay. I'd seen also services and maintenance was 34.66% negative. Like we had not spent what was budgeted by 981,000. I wasn't sure what that might be about either.
That's probably gonna be the emergency reserve. That's the largest individual line item in the council's budget. You're gonna start to see some expenditures there because we're paying for repairs to the library out of that emergency reserve
Okay.
budget. So, not something that we anticipated doing, but that's a good thing that we had that emergency reserve to draw upon.
It's a thing where each department pays into
No, that's just a 1% emergency allocation that council does in each budget.
Okay.
It's mandated by the rainy day fund ordinance. Again, we always hope that we don't have to spend it, but lately we have.
yeah. And then I was wondering about the visitor tax. How much of an increase have we seen since voters approved the increase?
Yeah, we're right on budget for the room tax. We think that the trends as far as, where folks, there's a lot of holiday spending, folks coming into town to visit their relatives, that sort of thing, has continued to be on trend. Where we were just algebraically increasing the amount that we would bring in from the room tax related to the tax increase, that has followed on those projections, at least so far. So we'll see if that continues.
Okay. And then the current general fund balance after we did the SROs and any other things that we might have approved recently, where are we standing?
I don't have that with me, but the last I checked, it was right at about 8 million in above mandated reserves.
Okay. Talking about some land possibly.
Yeah, we've talked
things
about
like
some
that,
land
so-
purchases, we've talked about some.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
In regards to the rainy day fund that paid for the repairs to the library, do we expect to get all of that back? Or do we think that,
Yeah, the city attorney's here. We do expect to get all or some of that back, but it will probably be years of litigation before we do. So we're upfronting those expenditures, trying to get the library repaired and back open as quickly as we can, and then let the litigation play itself out as we And it may be against the architect, it may be against the subcontractor or the main contractor. We'll see how those things play out.
Or maybe they will work with us about litigation. That's the hope. We're still trying to identify the root cause, and I think once we identify that, we'll know, for sure, it's not a roof leak. We have some ideas, but we're bringing in an envelope consultant to look at that. They're reviewing documents now, and then we'll have a contract for the council on January 9th, so they can begin their field investigation.
So they're gonna have to tear off fascia panels to be able to get to wherever they're gonna go, maybe.
Maybe. I don't know. Right now, they're taking down sheetrock and trying to find sort
That
of
way.
the path, inside the library.
Okay. And then that 8 million that we have roughly, are we on track to like, I mean, we had 14. Do we think we'll grow above that? Especially thinking about potentially like $7 million worth of expenditures that,
We're not anticipating adding to that substantially in this fiscal year or the coming fiscal years. We're hoping to maintain it for those one-time expenditures the council might want to appropriate funds for, like those land purchases, but we don't anticipate adding to it substantially. 500,000 maybe, but not in the millions of dollars of additional
so
added
roughly
fund balance.
500,000 a year-ish.
Yeah, in the out years, we project we're gonna start to draw that down again.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Since this is our last finance committee meeting for this year, starting in January, and as we start marching towards our next budget, when would be a good time for, if council members have projects that we specifically would like to fund, to start getting those to staff?
Yeah, it's never a bad time to for us to start to cost out things that you might want to do. If you wanted to, pave a street or do a sidewalk in this neighborhood, that sort of thing, we would refer that to the Public Works Department to say how much that would cost. And then staff can start to prepare a budget request, prioritize them for council's consideration as we move along in the budget process. So I'm gonna say yesterday, just whenever you wanted to bring something forward, we'll start to cost it out and get it into the process for your consideration.
Okay, perfect.
And then we have mid-year review next month, right?
Maybe next month, yes, sir.
And so with the stock market thing, so what does that mean for us? We can do more projects on the
No,
bond funds,
because
or-
again, it's, whoa. No, again, investment returns are a relatively small part of the revenue picture. I just did want to point out that it's been a positive bond market that we're playing in the last fiscal year.
Didn't know if it meant we could do 36th Avenue because the
Not because-
municipal bonds have increased. in
No, not
value.
because of that,
Okay.
not because of that.
All right, thanks.
All right. Well, sir, thank you very much. That goes. Shakira, if you'll take a chair at the table, please, so Bryce can get you.
As we move along, just know that, again, this is the Finance and Audit Committee. Under Sarbanes-Oxley, we have to have an audit committee, and this committee has acted as the audit committee. Since we now have an internal auditor, we're going to add a standing agenda item to this meeting for the city auditor to report on projects that she's working on, things that you might want to direct her to work on.
Excellent.
So I'll turn it over to her.
Hello, council. Hello. Happy holidays. How's everyone? Okay, so I guess first things first, anybody has any questions? No? First things first, as he said, we need an audit committee. That would require a charter to be written or formed by, and you would appoint the members of that audit committee. It should be chaired by someone with a CPA or equivalent experience in education. And then at-large members of the community who also have an auditing or accounting background, and members from the council that you appoint. Secondly, the internal audit charter has to be implemented into the city, and the policies and procedures as well for me to act in full capacity as an internal auditor for the city. So I have a few of those documents. They're still in draft form. Went to, I think it was Friday last week. Yes, Friday of last week, December 15th. I met with Oklahoma City's city auditor, and they've been 23 years ahead of us. They started their department in 2000, so the city auditor gave me a lot of pointers, a lot of things of where to start for a municipal government that's, you know, our sister city or a city that we're trying to model after, or a comparative city, I should say. So he's been a great help. He's willing to, I guess, assist me in the process of starting an internal audit function for a government that's never had one. So with that, I would like to announce some projects, some things that has come across my desk in the 6 or 7 weeks that I've been here. It may be a conflict to do that right now. I'm not sure if I could pass you a copy or, you know, say it out loud, but there's about 16 projects I would like to look into.
Good.
Some citywide, some more specific. One of those is an investigation that is ongoing with, I'm not sure I can say this either, 109, as you know, FSI, contract K-223-56. And that is how I'll keep it as anonymous as possible or confidential as possible. So the project, the audit projects would, of course, be citywide. There's department audits that I want to look at, as well as contracts that I would also like to look at. So, yes, 16, it's a lot.
It is a lot for 6
So,
weeks.
yeah, so citywide, first and foremost, if I could say, the purchasing card program audit. We have 13 departments here. I was under the understanding that we had 13 admin techs who were responsible for credit cards that were administered from the city. I consulted with management, realized or learned that there is no purchasing card policy. And then there are 44 cards out. Some cards are used more than others. Some cards are replenished more than once a month as far as their credit limit, so they're maxed out at least once or twice a month, which is a red flag for me. So I would like to run a citywide purchasing card program for everybody who has a credit card that is administered by the city. The citywide vehicle usage, I spoke to Mike White down at Fleet. He is talking about the amount of repairs and the cost of those repairs on all city vehicles that come through his department. Citywide admin and injury leave usage. We also have the overtime audit that we're trying to look at, so that kind of ties into that. And then we have a response to Citizen Street maintenance concerns. So I learned that the citizens pay for partially their own sidewalk repairs or sidewalk installs.
They
There
can't,
is a program that's
50/50
50/50.
program.
Okay, so I just wanted to, I guess, assess how efficient that was for the city.
Most cities, I guess, don't have that program.
No.
We just do out of the goodness of our heart. Want to have nice sidewalks, so.
And then we have a citywide contractor compliance audit. So basically, I would like to sample certain contracts that the city has with subcontractors and contractors and kind of test the compliance on those contracts. And maybe we can find some room to renegotiate or recommend that or whatever. But, yeah, so I would like to assess the compliance in those contracts. One of the ongoing investigation was the red flag for that. Because there's certain things that seem to be, and they're still under investigation, but it's, they may be out of compliance on a number of things in their contract. The human resources hiring process, been hearing some things from staff about hiring processes, who's been hired, connections, things like that. Would like to look into that. The public safety sales tax annual report and the Norman Forward tax annual report are two things I learned from OKC, Department Audit. And what they're doing is they have a judgment by the court that says they have to do an annual report for their public safety sales tax annual report. I want to be proactive in that matter and do it before a judge orders us to do it. So I also want to extend that same effort to the Norman Forward tax annual report because it is a new tax and the citizens are very concerned about what's happening with it. the Public Works, Architect and Engineering Contracting, Public Works unit price contracts because of the, I guess, the proportion of expenditures they have within the city expenditures. I would like to look into those. The medical marijuana permitting and revenue monitoring. So we see the city is lifeblood, we run on sales tax, but dispensaries, they have three taxes, from my understanding, right? Sales tax, an excise tax, and then a local tax. They have a Norman tax, correct?
Do we have a local tax on that?
Just the regular tax that we would collect from any business.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah, I don't think there's a special medical
That's state
marijuana.
law, I think.
when you
State-
purchase something from a dispensary in Norman, you would pay the 8.75% tax plus a 7% state excise tax.
But you don't, there's
So-
no Norman tax for that?
We don't have a city of Norman tax for it.
It's part of the 8.75, so
And-
we don't have a special tax on top of the regular sales tax.
So it's a
So
breakdown
we
of
get
that.
4.5, 4 point,
Wait, 4.625 actually.
of the 8.75, we get 4 point.
And is it a portion of that directly to the city from medical marijuana
Again,
sales?
just like any other business, but yes.
Okay.
So we don't know exactly how much we get from dispensaries or marijuana businesses. We have
Right,
an
and
idea,
because-
I think, but
Because dispensaries and marijuana businesses are mostly cash operative, I would like to look into those as well, to make sure that we're getting our fair share of sales tax from them. 911 fee receipts and 911 database charges. Can anyone tell me who handles our 911 calls? As far as what phone company? Is it AT&T?
Who do you have it with?
Great question.
It comes through ACOG and
It comes through ACOG, but I'm not sure who, if they have a third party.
Yeah, it's a real mix. There's a part of ACOG, which is,
ACOG, right?
you're familiar with it? Okay, and they run the 911 system for the state-ish. They propose what goes on and what the vendors are and everything else, and I think it's AT&T that runs part of it. But they switch lines. If a line is down, they can switch to Cox.
Okay. So, the city auditor in Oklahoma City, did a audit on the 911 fee receipts and 911 database charges.
Oh.
And apparently they were being overcharged for the 911 calls. And they received a lot of money in refunds from.
Certainly don't want to be overcharged.
Exactly. So I would like to run that as well, or do an audit on that as well. To
Yeah, now
make sure.
Oklahoma City runs their own 911 center. And
Right.
we have differing concerns with the administration from ACOG and whether we're getting the fair share back that we should be.
Okay.
So yes, that's certainly a ripe area for your audit. so.
Okay, great, thank you. So then the tobacco excise tax receipts audit, do we have excise tax on tobacco?
No. There is a state tobacco tax, but that's not a city tax.
There are no specific city taxes, are there, of any sort, income or?
No,
In Norman?
we tax, our sales tax applies to what the state applies sales tax to, so.
So it's a breakdown. So the 8.75
It would be the same
is coming-
algebraic breakdown as any other business.
yeah, 8.75 and we get 4.63,
6.
yeah, of that percent. The
Okay,
rest,
well-
the state gets the
The state gets
rest of it.
In that case, I would like to
County gets that
audit
little
the
sliver, yeah.
tax receipts on the sale of tobacco within the city. I'm not sure if, 7-Elevens, all these stores, if they're, in New York, we ran a tobacco project where they were counterfeiting tobacco products. Not in the sense they were actually fake, but they would ship tobacco products out of state that were cheaper and to skip out on paying the taxes.
Oh,
So that's also an opportunity to schedule an audit. We have Parks and Recreation Department payroll. So I've received word that some of the Parks and Recreation staff are not using IntelliTime in the way it should be used. So I would like to look into how they're using IntelliTime and how it can be, I guess, made more efficient for them since they are in the field.
okay. Like over a phone or something like
Yes.
that, okay.
And then the North Park TIF annual report, the public seems to be very concerned with that. They have a lot of chatter going on about what's going on with the TIF and there's money sitting in the TIF and nobody's using it. So I would like to also do a report on the TIF, just like the public safety sales tax and normal forward tax annual report. And then last but not least, the finance department economic development TIF allocations.
Okay.
And it will be up to the audit committee and myself on what, projects we take on first and
Yeah,
what projects will take priority.
that's an excellent list. We're gonna need some guidance, particularly if we're gonna do charter changes and all the rest of that. I've not heard of that. We had a short discussion about it. Anything that we change in charter, as far as I understand, has to go through the people.
Yes, and I think charter's just an unfortunate word maybe for what it is.
Yes.
I think it's really a policy.
Yes,
Oh.
it's a
Shakira and I
policy.
had that
It's just policy.
conversation
Yeah.
too.
Part-
But I think it's more of a policy document.
So it'll be
than it is-
kind of attached to your charter already. The charter that's
Be
already there.
attached to ordinance.
Yes,
Okay.
attached to the ordinance.
That'd be easier.
Yes.
We
I don't want
mess
to
with
change the entire charter.
very much. It, the charter's
So I'll have these, I have copies of them, but I'll have no problem emailing them to you all so you can read it. The resolution creating policies and procedures for the Office of the City Auditor is about 3 pages. It's about 11
that was the one that we saw
bullet points. Yeah,
last week or the week before.
well, no, this is just the policies and procedures, really broad.
Okay.
And then we have the resolution to amend the ordinance, which is about 8 pages. And it really details the role and the purpose, the duties of internal audit. It outlines the independence and objectivity, the competent leaderships or qualifications of an auditor, reporting lines, who the city auditor reports to, the authority and duties, as I've already said, the scope of the audits. It outlines the access that the auditors have, or the internal audit department has. One thing that is quite different, I would say, with most is I wanted to suggest a triennial audit plan, which is an audit plan every 3 years, because of the length of audits. Audits can range anywhere from 6 months to 18 months to more years than that. And if we only have audit plans that extend a year, we kind of box ourselves into, I guess, not doing the work that needs to be done on a due diligence manner. And then there's guidelines on reporting and monitoring, the standards that I would be conducting my job in is in accordance with the governing, I have them over here, the government auditing standards issued by the Comptroller General of the United States and the IIA's International Professional Practices Framework, including its standards, core principles for the professional practice of internal auditing, the definition of internal auditing, and the code of ethics as promulgated by the Institute of Internal Auditors. So those are the two bodies of, I guess, legislative bodies that, as a professional, I have to adhere to in this role. And then it speaks to the audit committee and their role, and my responsibility to the audit committee, the audit committee responsibility to me and the city, vice versa. And then we have confidentiality clause, peer reviews, and a clause for review and approval, which is done by the audit committee and council. So,
Sounds very thorough.
yes, I mean, so one thing, this work kind of can change someone's life, so it has to be thorough.
We got that right. Questions?
So can you go back to explain again, the triannual review?
Oh, okay, so the triannual is an audit plan. So the audit plan is usually done on an annual basis, on like a corporation but for government, because of, I would say, the resources and staff, we may have to take longer to complete these audits, or the audits are just large within themselves. So a year is just not enough time to complete an audit of, certain size, or when you have multiple audits or investigations and projects going on. You want to be able to at least be impactful. But within those 3 years, it will be quarterly, however the audit committee decides, the updates, annual reports it would still happen, audit reports on all cases and investigations, and then quarterly meetings with the audit committee to give them updates.
And so just hypothetically, so what I'm kind of picturing, hearing you describe, so you've identified the entire audit universe, which is all the different departments.
Yes.
And obviously, there's no way you can audit every single department
Exactly.
in a year.
Exactly.
So are you going to, you've identified all the departments, are you going to then do a risk-based analysis on which
Yes,
one is
so
going
the-
to be
so the-
riskier to try and do like a quantitative analysis on
Yes.
different rankings, and
Yes.
then whoever has the higher score, the top 5, just as an
Exactly.
example, are going to be the first ones you're
Yes.
going to review.
Yes.
And then, are you going to develop like a hourly budget
Yes.
system? That way, okay, I believe this
Yes, the
audit is
hours,
going to
yes.
take me X hours.
And the hours
Okay.
available, and I did the hours available, and I did it on the presumption that it's just me for a year, 52 weeks, 40 hours a week, or 50 hours a week.
50 weeks.
Right, 50 weeks, and then 40 hours, so 2,000, right? Just me, but then we have 3 years in that, so it's now 6,000 hours. So I would have to break down those 6,000 hours depending on these audits, right? But yes, the risk-based audit plan will be based on a risk assessment.
Okay. And then probably have to allow time for special projects.
Oh,
or
yes, special
Other
projects. and
special
also-
items that come up.
Yes, and then there's opportunities to amend based on those things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
She's not her, by the
Oh, I know.
way. So,
I'm-
Councilmember.
I don't know if I could throw my vote in the ring for audit committee, but not for me, but Councilwoman Bree Montoya to.
It makes sense, wouldn't
Yeah.
Now,
And
I will
I'm
say,
still
we had
reviewing the
anticipated,
chart, the
Okay,
charter.
I have to send you another one.
Okay.
I'll send you another.
Okay.
we had anticipated that this finance/audit committee would be the audit committee. Now, if you wanted to form a separate audit committee, that'd be up to the mayor and council. You could, but that's not what we had anticipated doing.
Well,
I agree with you, Anthony, just as a thing with that.
That was my question.
Okay.
Was related to that as well. Like I wanted some more clarification on were we actually asking for a new citizen committee or were we asking for this committee? Like I was a little
so
unclear
the
about
audit
like what
committee
the
includes council members and at-large community members. So basically, members who may have a CPA firm or may have some type of
So I think that's
guess-
something we're in like we've been in a massive review of boards and commissions just for the city in general for the last several years. I know that's something that needs to come back to oversight committee. That's where we talk about that. And so it might benefit having that discussion alongside that
oversight.
committee. So I don't know if we need to do that maybe next month in oversight. I'll get that added to the agenda so that we can kind of work through what the plan is for council and what we'd like to see and maybe give some just details on like how many members
Yep.
and like who sits on that and all and I guess the needs of the committee so that we can have a robust discussion about
I briefly,
yeah.
and the numbers, sure, can be up to the mayor and council, but just briefly, this is kind of a guessing game I did. So to ensure independence of the audit function, an audit committee is hereby established. That is not, we are not reading this into law. The audit committee shall consist of 5 voting members, 2 council members, and 3 at-large members who shall be appointed by the city council. The 3 at-large members shall be residents of the city of Norman with expertise in auditing, preferably performance auditing as well as financial auditing, Minimum professional standards shall include at least 5 years of experience as a performance auditor, a certified public accountant, certified internal auditor, certified management accountant, or 10 years of other relevant professional experience. Of the at-large members, 1 member shall be appointed for a term expiring on January 31, 2024. 1 member shall be appointed for a term expiring on January 31 of the following year, and 1 member shall be appointed for a term expiring January 30 of the subsequent year. That is for continuation. We don't want everybody to just get off and then
Yeah.
we don't know what's going on next. We want to be able to have someone who
You'll
can
find
communicate.
that patterns typical of most of our committees, and it's just that mix may change after
Yes.
it goes through all the
Right.
processes. And in doing stuff, because we can't always guarantee that we'll have an auditor on council.
Right.
And so to have civilian at large or whatever whatever your word was. That's understandable and I think a good way for us to think about that. Having two doesn't bother me. They would just have to have availability at
Yes,
this Thursday at 4:00.
Right,
And
and-
that shouldn't be hard for anybody.
yeah.
I say that.
And I guess the intent is for quarterly, so they wouldn't be meeting every
Right.
month.
Right.
Okay, so it would be 4 times a year.
Yes.
Okay. And then, I mean, I guess I just have, we can talk about this later, but I guess I have questions about like, sensitive information, open meetings, and like how, because all of our boards and commissions adhere to open meetings. And so I've got some like nuanced questions that we might talk
So
through.
audit
finance.
committee is open to management, staff, but they can't sit on audit committee. But for the sake of communication and understanding what's happening within their departments,
We-
just like here.
Well, what we have to do a lot of times is go into executive session because we're.
Oh, that's possible with audit committee.
Yeah.
Audit committee goes
And so
executive session as well.
we would have to change our own rules to have a citizen come in and do that. And I'm not sure if that's a big jump or not a big jump.
That's a big jump. I mean, that's certainly different than what we envisioned. But again, it's totally up to you all if that's what you wanted to do.
Yeah.
I'm
I
not
keep
sure
looking
I
at Catherine. I would like Catherine to weigh in.
Well, so
I've been taking her everything.
So, you know, we do have an ordinance in place that requires all appointed boards and commissions to adhere to the Open Meeting Act. Not all public bodies typically go into executive session, and so, you know, we have decided all of our boards and commissions are public bodies, even though they might not be under the Open Meeting Act. So it might be, you know, carefully doing something in the creation of the board or the committee to make sure we're staying within the act, but maybe it's not the same as every other committee. So you can talk freely about sensitive information that way. But we can work through that, I think, and come back with a couple of proposals
Okay.
when you all discuss it again.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I just want to have a kind of understanding of like what you're envisioning. And I don't think that it's a bad idea to have citizens involved for transparency and accountability and kind of all of those things. So builds trust. So yeah, I just want to work through all of the maybe nuances of the way that we do things here.
And here's another interesting nuance. So the internal audit charter is approved by the committee, but the committee has not been created yet. So the internal audit charter cannot be created.
That's one of those loops.
So it's like, yeah, it's one of those loops where we kind of go with the steps. And once that is done, I can pass whoever is on the audit committee, and y'all can vote, speak about it, discuss, make amendments, make changes, suggest changes, and then we move forward.
Councilmember Grant, did you have a question?
Actually, a large majority of them got answered.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I don't think I had the document that listed out the number on the
We don't
committee.
have those yet.
Yeah, so I had been searching. It's like, oh, are they award specific? But it sounds like
Oh, no, the 5 numbers or like the number 5, I just that was a random number. Just like the council has 8 and a mayor, it may decide that. It's up to mayor and who he appoints, however many he appoints. I was just going with the odd number for voting purposes.
Sure.
Yeah, that was it.
All right. Any other questions for Shakira? No. Well, thank
Any
you very much.
concerns?
Yeah.
Anything that you heard that could assist me in my risk-based audit plan?
Well, I'm sure after you start investigating, we'll hear the concerns.
Well, yeah, actually, after we get to review
Yeah.
the language in the documents and.
Okay.
And a lot of this is because it's new and because
Yes.
we're having to change concepts, make sure that it works with what finance has done. Finance has done a tremendous job
Yes, they
for
have. Yes,
many,
they
many years, and at least 26 is. And so,
This is a sample of the charter
Yeah.
from Oklahoma City. I'll give you an email. I'll
Please.
email it to you all so you can see how they formed it. They did a recent update of it 23 years later. They said it hasn't been updated in 23 years, so they wanted to update it for, just for it to be more effective today.
I think we'll be reviewing it faster than that. It'll get
One
on
more,
that list. Yes, ma'am.
one more question. Does Oklahoma City do the 3-year review
Yes,
process?
yes,
That would be
that's where
That's where that came
Yes.
from. Okay,
I
that
was
makes
gonna do a
sense.
year, and he said, what audit have you done that's
Right.
completed in a year? None of them. So that was one of their recent changes, changes 3 years, and then also the mayor was assigned to be chair of the committee, but they changed it so that he can designate someone else to be the chair. So, but you'll all have that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean that like an audit can't be done earlier than 3 years, but it allows you the flexibility.
Oh, yes, the
To
audit, the
continue.
goal is to be complete.
Fine.
Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
just kind of an overall idea that you will audit the entire universe every
Every
3
3
years
years.
or every 5 years.
Got it.
You know, and each organization is just gonna be different
Every
depending
year
on the
would
size.
be wild.
Oh, and then there's another point, there's an external peer review that should happen at least once every 5 years. It can happen more frequently, but the mandate is once every 5 years, at least. So,
Peer
and
review
that
is,
would be,
who are the peers?
a accounting firm, an
Okay.
external accounting firm, they would come in and basically grade my work.
I know a peer reviewer.
Oh, okay.
That seems like a conflict
Is that
of
what
interest.
we do with,
We have not. Again,
Well,
our external auditor.
right,
Their work as a firm has a peer review. But as far as their work here, it's not peer reviewed. It's adopted by the council, that would act as a peer review. But again, what you do with the internal audit program is de novo, and it's totally new. It's
Yeah.
totally, what you want to do. It's what you make it.
well, I have quite a bit of discussion on it. It's an interesting problem to have, basically. There are all kinds of things, because
You know, professionals in the practice of public accounting that provide assurance services like audits.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are required to have a peer review.
okay.
Yep.
And I've got no problem
And
with
yeah,
it.
it's
just
not their
how do we
work.
plug in?
It's their firm overall, making sure that they're following all the, appropriate, accounting practices and pronouncements and all those things, so.
And I think that,
Which is a good thing.
It is.
It's the auditors auditing the auditors.
and people who know exactly what they're doing. I mean,
Exactly.
it's a good quality assurance thing. It's a good quality assurance thing for the citizens to be able to know that this happens. We're looking at it. No more floor safes kind of a thing. So it goes. Anyway, all right. Anything else from council?
No, I'd just like to say thank you to
Thank
Shakira.
you.
You've really
Yeah.
come in and hit the ground running, and I feel like we've gotten a lot of movement and progress towards like what this is going to look like for the city. So just thank you for all of your hard work.
thank you for the great opportunity that this is. I'm enjoying it, truly.
All right. Well, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, and we are adjourned.